I appreciate your candor on this particular item. Now, in regards to Acasti going forward, it would seem that the objective here is you prove the merits of what I'll call the natural science. And based on the interest in this whole area, would you expect that once the phase 2 is completed, that based on the results that are expected being returned, that at that point there will be suitors out there that would be looking with great interest at potentially acquiring Acasti, or would that be too early?
Well, let me start by backing up just a moment and talk about what we're doing in our phase 2 work. As you mentioned and as I mentioned, there are a number of individuals who have taken krill oil that have gone ahead and spoken about the benefits they've gotten as a result of taking krill oil. Those are anecdotal reports. Those are reports like mine, where I say, well, this had a great benefit for me. It's very different to get those anecdotal bits of information versus going ahead and doing clinical studies. And what we're doing is we have engaged in a rigorous phase 2 clinical program, which includes blinded study as well as an open label study in a large number of patients. And we expect that the studies that we're doing will hopefully demonstrate the type of benefit that we've heard about in anecdotal type of reports. And what we're specifically looking for are endpoints that are regulatory endpoints, endpoints that we could go to regulatory authorities and talk to them about reaching these types of endpoints that could hopefully translate into a pathway towards approval. And the endpoints that we're talking about are endpoints that have to do with triglycerides. And in fact, omega-3s have been approved, like Lovaza, the first one that was approved, have been approved specifically in the area of lowering triglycerides. What we hope to be able to demonstrate is that same ability with our krill oil in the clinical studies that we're going ahead and moving forward. In addition to that, we hope we can differentiate the krill oil from the fish oil omega-3s. We hope we can differentiate it based on the amount of lowering of triglycerides or the fact that we can lower other aspects of the lipid profile as well. And because of the lack of negative effects that we have, the lack of any type of regurgitation, GI type of irritation. And importantly, we also believe that our drug will be able to be absorbed so much more readily that it will give greater flexibility to the doctor to modify the dose that an individual is getting if they haven't achieved the optimization on the krill oil dose that we believe will be the standard dose that we'll be using in individuals. These are aspects of our drug that we hope we're going to find as a result of our phase 2 studies that are currently ongoing. Once we go ahead and complete that, we'll no longer be speaking about things in an anecdotal way. We'll be able to talk about things in a very dynamic, specific way of saying that our drug does A, B, C, and D, and we have the clear proof of what it does. That's the time that I believe we're going to be drawing attention from the outside world. And when I say drawing attention, I'm never sure where it's going to come from, whether it's going to be coming from the pharmaceutical community or whether it's going to be coming from the investment community. But once you're at that place, once you've gone ahead and shown through successful phase 2 studies that your drug has a benefit, and that benefit has beneficial characteristics that are different than other drugs that are out there, I think it's going to draw a great deal of attention. Whether or not that attention is going to result in a greater valuation for us with the potential of this drug being seen, or whether or not it draws from the pharmaceutical industry attention from them, that's yet to be seen. I can say that this is an area that has a great deal of attention right now out there in a general manner, whether it is to our company or other companies that are working in the omega-3 area through the fish oil effort. It is an area that is well understood as an area that these drugs are barely being used and that greater and greater utility of these and use of these are going to take place. Right now, Lovaza, the drug that's is in a prescription form that's being used, has a market of well over $1 billion. This is not a market that is stagnant, but a market that is growing. And as other drugs get introduced, that are easier to use, that are more tolerable, I think that this market is going to grow. And I believe the pharmaceutical industry is going to draw a lot of attention in this area because it's not often that you have the opportunity to have what I consider a grand slam drug, a drug that has no side effects, a drug that has great benefits, and has a market area that's going to hopefully exceed $1 billion in terms of potential sales.
In context of that with Lovaza, and look at Amarin's current status, where the market cap is closing in on a couple of $1 billion. Without putting you on the spot too much, in a dream scenario, does Acasti have the elements that potentially could put it into that type of valuation?
Let me say what makes a drug valuable to the pharmaceutical area, and certainly what should draw the attention of shareholders, are really three elements. Element number one is back to a drug having efficacy in an area that's defined. And my hope and expectation is that we're going to be able to define the value of Capri, our krill oil that we believe will be the prescription form. I believe we're going to be able to show that utility in a very significant manner in individuals with hypertriglyceridemia. So that's number one. Element number two is safety. Whether it's the FDA or any regulatory body around the world, one of the key things that they focus in on is the safety of a drug. And to date, I can tell you that I have not heard from any individual or any source about any kind of safety concerns regarding the use of krill oil in any form, whether it's the nutraceutical or certainly any reports that we've had in the clinical studies that are ongoing. And last and importantly, it's the intellectual property. And what we have is a very strong intellectual property estate of patents that we believe are going to become increasingly strengthened over the course of time, that include composition of matter patents, they include use patents, and they include process patents. And these are not patents that are going to be short-lived. These are patents that are going to go on well into beyond the year 2024. So we believe we've got a great patent estate as well. I think that those three elements together have to, and again, all based on our potential success in the phase 2 studies and later in our phase 3 and pivotal trials, if we're able to go ahead and move this forward, I have to say I believe that the value of this will certainly parallel the kinds of values that you're seeing with Amarin, the kind of value that you see in a drug like Lovaza, and that's well over $1 billion. So I don't know where we're going to end up. It's hard for me to speculate. I don't have a crystal ball, and who knows what other drugs are going to be coming up in the interim. But the way I look at things is that this drug has well over $1 billion of potential, and I believe that potential will be realized in a relatively finite period of time, along with an intellectual property base which is really unparalleled in the area of omega-3s, and certainly nothing like it in the area of krill oil. We have no hindrance in our ability to go forward, and we really go ahead and keep any other groups from coming into the use of this area if our patents are able to hold true over the course of time. So I think that we're going to have a great deal of value, whether we're purchased by an outside group or whether we continue to go ahead and move this forward on our own. I think that this is going to be an extremely valuable franchise, and that Acasti's value is only going to continue to grow. And right now, I know that we have a value of somewhere around, I guess, $90 to $100 million. I consider that the same as saying that we have no value right now, because I think the value that's going to be recognized as we go forward will be based on a drug that will have a market potential of over $1 billion.
Dr. Waksal, very much appreciate your time today and the clarification you've provided on a number of issues, and again, for your candor on some of the personal items that you've dealt with and what brought you to this point. Again, thank you, and we'll be speaking with you again in the future.
My pleasure.